Hello, everybody, and welcome to our very first Makar to Makar. I'm so excited to be doing this home entertainment for our times. Makar is the word for the National Poet of Scotland, and for the moment, that is me. I'm the third modern Makar. I followed Edwin Morgan and Liz Lockhead. But Makar is an old word, really, for poet or bard. Chaucer used to be referred to as a Makar, so it's not, or it wasn't used exclusively for Scottish writers. And in this season, I'm thinking of Makar, the most near English equivalent is maker, as being anybody who produces poems or music. And so we're going to be kind of passing the baton in this series, Makar to Makar, maker to maker. And we very much hope that you'll enjoy our wee home brewed offering. It's going to be a rich mix of poetry and music, and every week there'll be a different Makar of the week. This week, the Makar happens to be me. So in order to help, so I'm not going to interview myself because that seems a bit ridiculous, even though I could have done something kind of postmodern and got dressed up in different outfits and appeared in one Zoom room and another Zoom room, but I think that's far too much. So in order to help me interview myself, I've invited along the very, very wonderful Peggy Hughes. That's Peggy. Hello. There. Hello, Peggy. And Peggy is the programme director for the Centre of Writing at the University of Norwich. And she also has worked for an amazing amount of different Scottish literary festivals, including the Edinburgh International Book Festival, Stanza, Dundee Festival, Wigtown Festival. She's done quite a few of these herself, and she's a really all-round good egg. Also joining me this week is the fantastic singer Suzanne Bonnar. There's Suzanne. And Suzanne is just she's going to blow you out of the park. She's got just the most amazing singing voice. I'll be introducing her properly a little later, but for now I wanted you to see who else is in the room with me, as it were, in the Zoom room. So I thought I'd kick off things off by reading a poem, a little poem. It's called Somebody Else. These times often make us feel like we're somebody else. Those of us that are going around either wearing masks or in jobs where we're having to change the way that we are completely, we often feel like we've got ourselves, another doppelganger is living our life. So this is somebody else. If I was not myself, I would be somebody else. But actually, I am somebody else. I have been somebody else all my life. It's no laughing matter going about the place all the time being somebody else. People mistake you. You mistake yourself. So this week, it's me, like I said, I'm the Makar for the week, and I'm going to read a few poems, and the format of the programme is we're going to have a wee bit of conversation. I'll read a few poems, and then Peggy's going to have a chat with me, and we're going to hear a song from Suzanne, and I'm going to have a chat with Suzanne, and that's the format. It's a rich mix of poetry, conversation, music, and song, and it seems to me in these particular times, never has art, music, literature, poetry been more necessary. The impulse in us to turn to being creative goes very deep indeed, and we've seen that from the extraordinary responses that we've been having really around the world. I thought I'd start off things by reading a love poem. This is called A Lang Promise, and I was thinking really of all those people out there who had planned weddings and have had to change them. And kind of how heartbreaking that is when you've made a big plan for something and you've had to change it. But don't worry, you will get married, and love is the most important thing of all. So this is a lang promise. And there's lots of old Scots words in this poem that some people might not understand, but that's life. Whether the weather be dreich or fair, my love, if good times greet us, or we hae to face the worst, a hint and afore what will happen to us, blind in the present, eyes open to the furore, unkempt or perjinct, suddenly poor or poorly, peely-wally or in fine feckle, felled or frosty, calm as a ghoul, or in a fiery farry in dark December, in springy spring weather, down by the barrows on the Champs-Élysées at midnight, first licht, whether the moon be round or crescent, and ye be of sound mind or absent, I'll tak your trusty horn and lead you over the haw hame, my darling. I'll carry my lantern and door defend you agin ony foe. And whilst there's breath in me, I'll blow it into ye. For ye are my true love, the bonny face I see. Nichts I fall into slumber, it's ye swimming up in all your goodness and blitheness, your passion. You'll be mine now until the end of time, my bonny lassie. I'll tak the full good of you and gie it back, to you. A first kiss, a lang promise, time's golden ring. So, so that was my first wee poem, a lang promise. And I often meet people. I was going to say often meet poems.
Well, you meet them too.
I meet them too. Exactly.
They meet you.
I often meet people that tell me that they've read that poem at their wedding, and all sorts of different people that are not Scottish that are going to go onto pronunciation sites and learn the pronunciation of things. So that always makes me feel very, very chuffed. As I said, I'm the Makar, and I read one day that the Scottish Government were going to be doing a box of essential things for babies, and I thought, what a brilliant idea. So I wrote to the Scottish Government, as you do, and I said, how about considering a poem as one of the essential things? And to my surprise, they wrote back and said, yes, good idea. So I thought, bloody hell, I've got to write it now. So I had to write the poem, and this is called Welcome Wee One. And every baby born in Scotland gets a copy of this poem. And there was a bit of a stramash when it first came out because people objected to the old Scots words in it at first. But now they did a survey not that long ago, and it's people's favourite thing in the baby box. So it just shows you've just got to get through things when you get criticisms. One criticism that I really didn't like, though, was because I'd written out in my own handwriting, and they all get it in my own handwriting, kind of all printed. And one criticism I didn't like was that somebody had written and said, "What a horrible font."
Oh!
I was so hurt. You know, it was my best handwriting too. Anyway, this is a Welcome Wee One. Oh, my darling wee one, at last you're here in the world, and with all your wisdom, your een bricht as the stars. You've filled this house with licht, your trusty wee hon, your globe ahead, my cherished gin, my heart's ain. Oh, my darling wee one, the hale world welcomes ye, the moon glows, the hearth warms, like your life hae luck, health, charm. You are my bonny, blessed bairn, my small, miraculous gift. I never kent love like this. And the last poem that I'm going to read in this wee section of the programme is called In My Country. So yeah, I wrote this poem. It's actually a really short poem, but after this, so many different times of people asking me where I'm from in so many different ways. I think one of the funniest of those times was being in a shop in Drimmen, which is a place that's spelt dry men but pronounced Drimmen, but there's lots of dry men about in Drimmen. And I tried on this top, and this woman came up to me and she said, "I think that colour suits you, dear. Where are you from?"
Oh.
And I said, "I'm from Glasgow." She said, "Is that right? Because I've got a friend from the Dominican Republic."
Oh.
My son thought that story was so funny. He had it put in a T-shirt for me as a Christmas present one year. And on the front it said, "I've got a friend from the Dominican Republic." And on the back it said, "What have you got?" Anyway, so this is In My Country. In my country, walking by the waters, down where an honest river shakes hands with the sea. A woman passed round me in a slow, watchful circle, as if I were a superstition or the worst dregs of her imagination. So, when she finally spoke, her words spliced into bars of an old wheel, a segment of air. Where do you come from? Here, I said. Here. These parts. So that's me. Finished my first wee reading, and I think I'm going to welcome Peggy back and have a wee chat with her.
Lovely. How nice to be here, Jackie. It's like you're having a wee Kaylee in your front room.
That's great. That's the intention. Feel like
fabulous.
A wee Kaylee in the front room.
We're all invited. I just want to ask you, first of all, to say a wee bit more about the Makar role, which you've held since 2016. Can you just tell us a bit about what that's been like? Just what is a day in the life of the Makar like?
Well, a day in the life of the Makar at the moment is kind of extraordinarily busy. In fact, I seem to be even more busy under lockdown than I was previously. And that's really because I'll stop being Makar in March next year, 2021. And I felt like I really still wanted to find a way to be actively Makar, which is one of the reasons that I curated this series of programs, Makar to Makar. But in an ordinary day, there'll be endless different requests to do different things, to write poems, especially. I wrote a poem for the Queensferry Crossing opening. I wrote one for the opening of Scottish Parliament in 2016, and another one to celebrate 20 years of Scottish Parliament. I wrote one for empty houses. I write for different charities, shelter, all sorts of different people get in touch with you. And I also crucially travel around the country a lot. Or I did when you could travel around, and I got a real sense then of Scotland changing. I remember being in Uist once and saying to the woman that was driving me around the next day, who was in her middle 70s, I said, I was surprised to see the big lesbian turnout for me last night. And without missing a beat, she went, aye, we managed to hang on to our lesbians, we lose our gay men.
Great. I mean, it's wonderful that it's taken you on the road, and of course now you're kind of hopefully in living rooms all over the world with this event tonight. But you said yourself earlier just about the power and the role of poetry and art and books just right now. I mean, I wonder, how does that feel, that sort of sense of maybe responsibility in terms of what art and words can do just at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think that I feel a big responsibility at the moment. I know that there is a kind of snobbery in the world of poetry, that if you write too close to an event, that the poem itself is not going to be worth anything, not worth tuppence, and that it's going to have to be binned. But I don't really agree with that way of looking at things. I think that, as writers, we kind of have an imperative to respond to our times, to document them, to find a way of recording them in a different way, to find different voices. And I think musicians do that all the time, and artists do, photographers, documentary makers, all different art forms. So I don't know why poets should feel that they've got to have ages and ages before they can produce something that they're pleased with. And Caroline Duffy's launched this new website, Write Where We Are Now, and lots of poets from all around the world are contributing to it. And some of the poems on that website are fantastic. So yeah, I think writing contemporaneously is a big challenge. It'll take you a wee while to look at the poem or look back on the poem and see how you feel about it. That's certainly true, but I don't think that should stop us from writing. In that way, I really admire the novels of Ali Smith. She's done a whole series and she's been writing bang up against our time, and I think that they're fantastic. They're so refreshing.
Yeah, no, they're wonderful novels. I've got one tiny wee question just before we hear Suzanne. What does music mean to you in your work? How does it sneak in, your love of music?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Well, I just love music. Music was my first love, and it will be my last. Music of the future. I've just always loved music. I grew up with a jazz-loving dad, who sadly died 6 months ago. But he left me a huge love of jazz and blues. The first album that he ever bought me was Bessie Smith. And so I grew up very influenced by the blues, because that 12-bar beat and the refrain of the blues and the stories of the blues just got into me, got into my writing. And same with Celtic folk songs and with Gaelic songs. I just, I often take as my inspiration songs as much as I do poetry. And I guess one of the poets whose work I admire the most is our original Makar, perhaps, Robert Burns. And I love the way that so many of his poems are songs, and so many songs are poems. I like that they're not being a real division between a poem and a song in the world of Burns. And I hope that some of my poems can be sung too, and have been sung too.
For sure. And I think we're going to hear from Suzanne now. We'll be back later on, but yeah, lovely.
Thank you. See you later.
Yeah.
So it's really wonderful for me to have the absolutely fabulous Suzanne Bonnar with us now. Yay! I first came across Suzanne in 1991 when she broke onto the scene with the wittily titled documentary Fly Me to Dunoon. And I remember watching that and thinking, oh, this is my soul sister. I hadn't actually met her yet, and then I met her a little while afterwards. But I'd never met any other Black Scottish person before then, or hardly any. Certainly not in Scotland, and that was really, really fantastic. And later after that, she did another amazing documentary called The Blacksburg Connection, which was about her journey to find her birth father, who she'd been separated from since she was around 2 years old. Yeah. And that documentary was extraordinarily moving. It won a Celtic Award, it won a New York Film Award, and it also kind of placed Suzanne as somebody to really watch out for. So since then, she's been singing at jazz festivals all over the place. She's been in several plays. She's been in some of my plays.
Yes.
And she's just she's just an all-round amazing person, and also an extraordinary family friend. And actually, the last time that I heard Suzanne sing live was at my dad's funeral, when she sang the Eriskay Love Lilt beautifully, and then in the pub in Oranmore afterwards, she sang St James Infirmary Blues. Suzanne, welcome to Makar to Makar.
Thank you so much. I can still remember that first phone call I got from you, oh gosh, all the years ago, and saying that there's another one. There's another person out there, I've got a soul sister. My goodness, just like yesterday.
I know, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's actually 30-something years ago now.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, because I don't even think. Yeah, I had Matthew then.
You did,
so,
yes.
He was the first time that I came to meet you, he was only 2, and he's 31 now.
I know.
Amazing.
My goodness.
Yeah. Tell me I don't look old enough.
You don't. Tell me I don't.
You don't. But anyway, what have you chosen to sing for us this?
Well, I thought I would do Maud Brune Looks at the Moon, because I love that song, and it's also really nice to have an original song, an original piece. Now, you wrote the words and Tom Urie penned the music. So I was also thinking that I'd like to dedicate it to your mum, Helen Kay, as she sits in her recliner, and hopefully she'll think of us all when she looks out at the moon. So I thought it'd be nice to do for her just now, and for all our loved ones that we can't see just now, and you'll soon be able to either go to the window or to see her and give her a big cuddle in person. So I thought I would do this song because I know she always loves it, and she's usually always with us at things. So
thank you, Suzanne, that's lovely. I'll take it away.
Okay. A night like last night, the moon was broad and bright. The stars were clear, just as far as near. A time for change, it was clear. I was still Maud Brune, a wee woman light years away frae the moon. If the moon had seen me, I would do at Maud Brune looking up at the moon. In Nacht, like last night, I was feeling strange. My hair fell down in the broad brick oh, the full moon, strange. I was still more brune, a wee woman, light years away through the moon. If the moon had seen me and looked down at my broom, looking up at the moon. In Nacht, like last night, in the sky's big red, rolling to the other side, and showing her bonny pudding face. I was still more brune, a wee woman, light years away frae the moon. If the moon had seen me and looked down at my broom, looking up at the moon, at Helen Kay in her recliner, dreaming of John Kay and the moon. We'll see you soon.
Oh, that was so beautiful and so touching. Just the idea of that, really beautiful. Thank you
You're
so much for that. Wasn't that beautiful, Peggy?
Oh, God, lovely, lovely, gorgeous.
Oh.
I was thinking that Suzanne, when you approach a song and you're thinking about singing it, how do you? What's your kind of creative process? Because it seems to me that you're such an artist and you have to find a route into each song. And I'm just wondering, is the routes into songs different depending on the song? Like using that one, say, as an example.
It is, and it's very much it's difficult because if I'm working obviously with musicians, it can often be very much on the night. There's some songs I'll say no, I just can't do it because I don't feel it. It's got to be something that I really want to say. It's about, I've realised what's been really hard through lockdown, it's about people and the inspiration from people. And so you take people's stories, it's the sound of a voice or something someone's told you that you take and you carry, and that becomes the appropriate words in a song, you know, with the melody that you can convey and think about that person or collective people or a time, a celebration, an emotion, a loss, a death. So yeah, it's very much driven by, it's what I say is important. So it's what's been said. It's not about how do I sound as a singer, you know, or it's more what am I saying. And hopefully sound then marries the word, you know, like old writers like Gershwin. And you think about it, they would spend hours over words like a foggy day, you know, in London town had me low, you know, the words that really marry the melody. So that is really what's very important to me. And I suppose that comes from, again, it's like a writer, a painter, a sculptor. It's music, mountains, isn't it, and water. It's all around us. It's the landscape. It's people. Yeah. It's life.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating. You were saying earlier that it's really different not having an audience, which, you know, I find too, because I'm used to going about and doing my gigs, you know. We poets call readings gigs, you know. It's really sad and
Yes.
pathetic, you know. We meet each other on the road and say, done any good gigs recently? Yes, Milton Keynes Central Library.
Well, I suppose that's quite a lot of the jazz world, isn't it? You know, what cellar have you been in? Because often it's small venues or cellars, or you're playing at midnight, you know. And
exactly. But I was going to, you were mentioning anyway, not having the chance to perform in front of an audience. So I'm wondering, what is your experience of lockdown? You know, where are you? You're in Glasgow, and what's it like? Are you you staying on your own?
I'm staying on my own, yes. I really miss my daughter, Marissa, because she's been at her boyfriend's during lockdown and his family. So I really miss her. So it's been really interesting being on my own, a new departure, flying solo. But it's been good. There's been a lot of good things about that. But I miss human contact. I miss being able to cuddle and laugh and just observing, isn't it? The things that you observe about your loved ones and your friends. I miss that. I miss just being in that, you know, intimate space with people, that, you know, if it's over a coffee and you can really see how they are by not just what they say, but so many other things, isn't it? So many other, the resonance of people, isn't it? That resonance. So I really
that kind of leads me into my next poem, which is going to be fear, which is the old Scots word for friend, but in this poem I pronounce it theory because it gives me more rhymes. But I'm kind of reading this to the two of you, Suzanne and Peggy, as friends, and to all my friends that are out there that I can't see, and to everybody who's got friends that they can't see, because the thing that I hear most often actually is that people are really missing their friends. And it seems to me that friends, you know, lovers can come and go, but friends often are there for life.
Yeah,
and then the first time I ever read this poem was at a burn supper in Sri Lanka, of all places, and the haggis were flown in and watched them land in the runway and spontaneously address themselves. And there was two women at this burn supper in Sri Lanka who were 88 by then, and they'd known each other since they were 3. So they were the kind of the perfect people to hear this poem, Fairy. If you went to the Tapmost Hill, Fairy, where we used to clam as girls, you see the snow the day, Fairy, settling in the hills. You'd mind another day, maybe, when we ran down the hill in the snow, sliding and singing our way to the foot, lassies laughing together, how braw, the years slipping awa out in the weather. And now we're suddenly old, Fairy. Your friendship's ne'er been weary. We've aye seen the world differently. Where would I've been without my Jo, my Fairy, my Fiercie, my dearie o? Your hair, it might be silver now. Your walk, a wee bit doddery. But we've had a whirl and a blast, girl, through the cold blast winter, through spring, summer. Oh, in a lifetime, my Fairy, my bonny lassie, I'd defend you, me. Blithe and blatter, here we gang down the hill, nae matter, past the bracken, bonny braes, barley, out by the roaring sea, still having a blether. We who love sincerely, we who love sae fiercely, the snow ne'er looks sae barry, nor the winter trees sae pretty. Come on, my Fairy. Tak my hon, my Fairy. So I'm going to read just 2 more poems for now. And this poem, Peggy was talking to me earlier about writing up against our times. And this poem I did write very recently. And I wrote it really because I felt a sense of outrage and anger at the way that this country has dealt with this crisis. This, you know, I mean actually the UK government, not the Scottish one, because I think actually dealt with the crisis very, very differently, and the Irish very differently, and the Welsh very differently. But anyway, I wrote this, and this poem's called Mask. SAGE, SARS, PPE, NHS, BAME. Abbreviations we understand, but not lives shortened by too few goggles, gloves, gowns. Johnson doing a ring around, carers compelled to wear bin bags, doctors decked out in out-of-date masks. But death has no abbreviation, no hiding place. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, don't listen, close your ears, don't test, test, test. We will come to know your names, our carers, nurses, doctors, our NHS, and we will mask our heads in shame. And I've been thinking at this time of all the different people that are going through a very different kind of bereavement at the moment. You know, 31,000 and counting in the UK alone, and of course nobody has any idea what the real figures are, because care home figures weren't included for some time into the crisis and for a number of different reasons. But I was thinking that, you know, it's very, very hard to lose somebody, and it's particularly hard to lose somebody in these times. And it's hard, there's so many hard things about these times, so many harrowing and traumatic things, but there's also been extraordinarily heartening things happen, and everybody who's working in the NHS and for funeral directors and funeral services are trying to do their absolute best and trying to still give people as much dignity and as good a send-off as they possibly can within these circumstances. So I wanted to read this poem, Darling, for that purpose. I wrote this poem for my dear friend Julia Darling, who died a long time ago. Now, Darling. You might forget the exact sound of her voice or how her face looked when sleeping. You might forget the sound of her quiet weeping, curled into the shape of a half moon, when smaller than herself. She seemed already to be leaving before she left, when the blossom was on the trees and the sun was out and all seemed good in the world. I held her hand and sang a song from when I was a girl. Heal ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. And when I stopped singing, she'd slipped away, already a slip of a girl again, skipping off, her heart light, her face almost smiling. And what I didn't know or couldn't say then was that she hadn't really gone. The dead don't go till you do, loved ones. The dead are still here, holding our hands.
That was lovely. I've just got a couple of little questions, and then we're going to hear from Suzanne again. But the poems we've heard tonight, the Mask there was really fueled by anger. Darling's just full of love. I mean, I wonder what normally the wee starting motor for you in a poem is, typically.
Well, there's often all sorts of different inspirations or provocations for starting a poem for me, and it just really depends on the poem. Everyone has a different one, different trigger, if you like, and often it's to do with people or landscape or music or something I've observed or something that I've seen, something that just starts something off. In that case, I was thinking about how many abbreviations that we've got used to during this crisis, abbreviations that wouldn't have just tripped off our tongue beforehand, PPE, and even BAME wouldn't have tripped off people's tongues so easily just before this crisis. It does now, because we know that BAME people are more likely to die of COVID-19. And so there's been all sorts of things. And I was thinking about abbreviations and then thinking, but there's not really an abbreviation for death, even though it's a stop. Death is a stop. And so that came about from thinking like that, and also just being furious at the ways that our lives have been played with. And I'm kind of one of these poets. I don't really agree that you can't write good political poetry. A lot of poets think, oh, I can't, if it's political, then it's going to be too polemic and it's not going to be a good poem. I just don't agree. I think there's been lots of great political poems. I'm not saying that that's one of them. It probably isn't. I'm just saying that I don't agree that you can't write a good political poem.
Absolutely, as we've seen tonight. My final wee question, Jackie, it's just something that your predecessor and I know really great friend Edwin Morgan wrote in one of his poems, "Nothing is not giving messages." And it feels like your Sunday Post, your columns there at the minute are exactly that. They're kind of connecting people and bringing us in poems together at this time. Could you just tell people a wee bit more about those Sunday Post poems and where they can find them?
Yeah, well, every Sunday I pick a poem for the Sunday Post, and they're published in the Sunday Post newspaper, but you can also access them online. And there's been all sorts of different poets that I've picked so far, you know, Kathleen Jamie, Don Patterson, Caroline Duffy, Edwin Morgan himself, lots and lots of different poets, both from Scotland and from around the world, and living poets and dead poets. There's been a Burns one, there's been a Philip Larkin. I just really try and think of what's going on that particular week and pick a poem that feels appropriate to it. So it might be something kind of random, like Philip Larkin talking in bed, because I was thinking of all the couples that have been thrown together for a lot of time, where talking in bed is perhaps not something they're able to do, and that poem is quite a lonely poem. It's about not being able to communicate. So just every week I just try and think of some aspect of this crisis, or something sparked off by the reading of the newspapers or watching the news. And it feels to me that poetry is a great companion. It's a great solace, and it's a form that can actually accompany people through dark and troubled times and provide them with some kind of light at the end of it.
Hear, hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Well, I think we're going to hear again now from Suzanne. What song have you picked for us now, Suzanne? And tell us a wee bit about the song.
Okay, well, I've chosen Malaika, which the late great Miriam Makeba sang, and the reason this time, I've recently Dennis Goldberg died just at the end of April, so a lot of friends who are involved in ACTA in Scotland, who's Action for South Africa, they still provide books and help in terms of raising funds, and they were very close to him, and I just thought it would be really nice to dedicate to a great humanitarian, a great man with great integrity and truth. And he was really influential in I suppose the creation of the Rainbow Nation, is what we know it in terms of with Nelson Mandela, and his influence on Mandela as a white Jewish male. You know, he went to a different prison from Mandela, but he really influenced him as a friend, and the great love and friendship they shared over the years. So it's a beautiful song, and it's a Swahili love song, and it's called I Love You, My Angel, Malaika. Malaika, nakupenda malaika, malaika, nakupenda malaika, nami nifanyeje tikana memsimyo nashindana mali sing away ningekuwa malaika nashindana mali sing away stuckly ningekuwa malaika pesa sasumboya roho yangu tiriri 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 pesa sasaboya roho yangu nami nifanyeje tikana memsimyo nashindana ngali sing away ningekuwa malaika pesa kukurun koyau ki how I love you, my little bird. Damn if I Tikana mem simyo Nashindana mali sing away Nengekuo malaika Nashindana mali sing away. Yes, I love you, my angel.
Yeah. Just lovely. Just lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Suzanne. I remember hearing Miriam Makeba singing that live, and it's just one of those. It's one of those songs that just takes you right in, doesn't it? It's just so beautiful. It seems to me that this crisis, it's been music's defining hour, because so many musicians the world over have found all different ways, innovative ways, new ways, technological ways to still bring us music. And that's what we hope to do, and we will be doing every week on Makar to Makar. And every week you will have a different singer and a different Makar. I can now announce that the Makar of next week is going to be the very, very wonderful Don Patterson, who's not only one of the best living poets, in my opinion, anywhere in the world, but he's also a very fine musician. You're in for a real treat with him. And accompanying him will be Catherine Philpott, who's got a really fantastic voice too. We'll be having on Makar to Makar, we've got 3 resident singers, and they will be rotating. I've kind of paired them with the person that I think they go best with, so that's been great fun for me to do. And I'd like to thank Peggy so much for joining us. Thank you, Peggy. It's been really great having you.
I've loved it. Thank you for having me. It's been a real treat to hear you both, honestly, really lovely.
Thank you, Peggy. And I just want to say a few words of thanks too, apart from thanking Peggy and thanking Suzanne. I'd like to thank very much our funders, because without them, this whole thing wouldn't have been possible. I was really passionate about trying to get writers, artists, musicians and performers paid during this time of crisis, because so many people fall between the cracks and can't really apply for any kind of funding. So we've been very, very lucky to have been hugely supported by the National Theatre of Scotland, by Home in Manchester, by the School of Arts and Media in Salford, and by the Edinburgh International Book Festival. So thank you very much, all of you, for supporting us. This last poem that I'm going to read tonight is called Essential. And actually, it was interesting because I was asked by the Scottish Government to write a poem to celebrate essential workers, and I was sent a brief, you know, with lots of different workers that they would like to be mentioned. And I would have loved to have mentioned so many different groups, but I couldn't find a way of doing that in the poem and also keeping the poem's spirit. So I just hope that every essential worker that's not mentioned in the poem knows that it's for them too. So this is Essential. Up, down the length of our land, Aberfeldy, Ardnamurchan, there's uplift, sharing, past the baton, a front line forming, hand to fierce hand. Shop front workers down the aisle, new era queues, metres apart. The chemist's prescription warms the heart. Delivery folk vanish, ghost a smile. Volunteers at the local food bank, shy half moon in a clear Scots sky. We leave with tins, groceries, goodbyes. Clap in the gloaming when we say our thanks. And the sky greets with stars, and the bold birds sing as we clink in our links in the kindness line, holding absent hands for auld lang syne. Remember to clap the carers. See you next week. Thanks for joining us.